Hello guys, I am Dr. Devendra Mishra, working as Assistant Professor in Chemistry at Bidla Institute of Applied Sciences, right? Also running this Tetrahedron Chemistry Classes channel, and here are the links available to approach me. Hello friends, welcome back to the Tetrahedron Chemistry Classes. So guys, लगभग 10-12 दिन से मैंने कोई वीडियो नहीं बनाया है because I was not keeping well. Actually, still I am not very comfortable while going to the study actually. Okay, so it is actually quite difficult for me to shoot videos, but I am actually receiving the lots of requests from you to complete the organometallic compounds, and I have just started the organometallic compounds, so it's actually my duty to complete organometallics before your June or no, before your 2020 examination. It may happen in the August, it may happen in the September. Okay, so today I'm trying to explain one more aspect of your one more aspect in your organometallic compounds. Okay, and this is my actually the lecture 7th. If you remember, in my last lecture I have completed the isolobal concept, okay, with the previous year problems. And in today's class actually I want to discuss the IR spectroscopy of the metal carbonyls, and the topic guys बहुत ज़्यादा important है. Okay, because in every net examination you will find a question from this particular topic. वो 4 mark का भी हो सकता है, वो 2 mark का भी हो सकता है, but definitely will have the question from this particular topic. Okay, and this topic is quite vast. It is not possible to complete the entire IR spectroscopy of metal carbonyls in only in one lecture. So today I am going to discuss one aspect, right, which is based on the simple back bonding concept, and in the next lecture I'll explain the point group and the symmetry criteria which defines the number of the IR bands as well as the intensity. Okay, तो इसको हम बाद में देखेंगे. तो see, this is my today's topic, that is IR spectroscopy of the metal carbonyls. So what are the metal carbonyls, guys? If you want to write the formula, so in the center you can put your metal, okay, and then you can put carbonyl. Say this is tetracarbonyl type of the complex. Okay, so the important thing is that, see, whenever you have this carbonyl ligand, this is a neutral ligand actually, and whenever you have this ligand actually, right, in your metal, so it stabilizes the metal in the lower oxidation state. So your metals actually would be in lower oxidation state. This is very important. Okay, so like you may have the zero oxidation state, even you may have the negative oxidation states of the metal when you have the carbonyls. Okay, so why the IR spectroscopy is important for this one? Actually, this carbonyl group is IR active. Okay, IR active means it is infrared active. That means you can record the infrared spectrum for this carbonyl. Okay, and the reason is that, see, if you check the dipole moment of this one, so I'm writing dm for the dipole moment. So it is having the very small dipole moment, 0.122 dBi. So this is the value of the dipole moment. And why it is having the dipole moment, this carbon triple bond oxygen is there, and it's a polar molecule, and this vector will go in that manner. A dipole moment is a vector quantity. Okay, so this dipole will go in that manner, and this will result in the particular dipole moment value, which is 1.22. So when IR radiation falls on this one, see, IR का basic फंडा क्या है, IR स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी का, कि जैसे ही IR radiations will fall on your molecule, so it start vibrating, and when the C amplitude is changes, that means there is appreciable change in the dipole moment, then your molecule would be IR active. So I'm telling you, this carbonyl is the IR active, and you can record the spectrum of this one. Okay, and how we can deal with the IR stretching. So in that case, what you can do, you can stretch this particular bond which is present in between carbon and the oxygen. So while see, to stretch this particular bond, whatever the amount of the energy will require, that will give you the vibrational frequency. Okay, don't worry, I'm going to explain all these things in little detail. Okay, so guys, so important thing is that when it is IR active, that means to stretch this particular bond, you will require certain kind of the energy. And I'm not going to give you the detailed analysis of the IR physical IR spectroscopy, and I'm giving you a simple formula which is based on the Hooke's law. Okay, and see, this is new, and that would be equals to 1 upon 2 pi under root k divided by mu. Okay, so this is the Hooke's law, and whatever the energy would require to stretch this particular bond, right, the magnitude of that energy would be given by this vibrational frequency, because this vibrational frequency is directly proportional to the energy. You should remember this particular point. 1, 2 and pi are the constant. Okay, and mu is the reduced mass. So in case of your carbon in your coordination, your organometallics or in, compounds, there is no need of this mu. Actually, this will fix all the time. So the only thing which can affect the vibrational frequency in case of the metal carbonyls, right, that is the value of the K. Okay, and this K is actually the force constant. Okay, this K is the force constant, and this force constant is what actually this force constant is can be actually considered as the bond strength in between these two. So force constant is basically the bond strength between the carbon and the oxygen of the carbonyl molecule. See, if the bond strength is very high, so you will require high energy to stretch this bond, and when you require the high energy, then the vibrational frequency would be very high. When the bond strength is weak, then you will require the low energy to stretch this particular carbon oxygen bond, and when you need the less energy, then your vibration frequency would be low. So these things actually you should keep in mind. Okay, these are the some fundamental concepts. And one more thing which is very important, guys, this carbonyl, right, this carbonyl actually act in the two ways. See, it's a sigma, it acts in two ways. Actually, what it can do, it can form actually it can act as the pi acceptor. It's a pi acceptor ligand. You should remember this carbonyl is the pi acceptor ligand, and along with the pi acceptance, right, it is also the सिग्मा डोनर लिगेंड. ओके, तो आपको ये पता रहना चाहिए कि कार्बोनिल दोनों तरीके से काम करता है, पाई एक्सेप्टर लिगेंड भी है और सिग्मा डोनर लिगेंड भी है. दिस यू शुड कीप इन माइंड. सो व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ दैट, राइट? सो द सिंपल मीनिंग इज दैट, say for example, if you are having that carbonyl group here and you are having the metal somewhere here, so it would be the actually transition metal. Okay, so it will have the metal d orbitals. Okay, so in this d orbitals this carbonyl can donate electron pair. Okay, so what kind of formation you are having in that case? It is actually the sigma bond. It is the formation of the sigma bond, and this sigma bond is between ligand to metal. So ligand to metal sigma bond. Okay, so in that case it will act as the sigma donor ligand. And next important aspect is that this carbonyl is also having the vacant pi anti-bonding orbital. In a little moment I'm going to explain how actually all the things will go. So when it is having the pi empty molecular orbital, what it can do actually, see, this carbonyl can also accept the electron density, right, from the metal. Okay, but this would be actually the pi bond, so this would be metal to ligand pi bond. Okay, so this is actually pi acceptor because it will accept the electrons in the pi anti-bonding orbital, and it is also a sigma donor because it will donate its sigma electron to the metal d orbital. This thing you should keep in mind. Okay guys, and the important thing is that, guys, see, you can see here I have drawn a very clear-cut molecular orbital diagram. So this molecular orbital diagram would be the key for you in explaining the vibrational frequencies. Okay, so guys, how we can explain this one? You know, your carbon is 6. If I can write here, so electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2 and 2p2. Okay, there is no problem in that. And then you have the oxygen is 8. That means 1s2, 2s2, and 2p4. Okay, so 2s2, 2p4, they are the valence electron. Similarly, 2s2 and 2p2, they are the valence electron of the carbon. Okay, and when we draw the molecular orbital diagram, though I haven't explained or I haven't made a video on the molecular orbital theory, but I'll definitely try to make the video, complete video on the molecular orbital theory also. But right now I'm explaining the molecular orbital diagram of the CO. Since these are the valence electrons, so guys, this is how I have made this particular diagram. So you can see here, this is the 2s of the carbon, which is having 2 electron, which you have seen just earlier. Okay, and this is the 2p of the carbon, which is having the 2 electron. You know, the carbon is 2s2 2p2 configuration. You can see here, this is 2s2 2p2 configuration. Okay, so they are having these electron. Okay, and then your oxygen is also having 2s2. See, it is, this oxygen is what, this is 2s2 2p4. Okay, इसके पास इतना है, तो यहाँ से आप देख सकते हैं, this is the 2s atomic orbital of oxygen, and this is 2p atomic orbital of oxygen. This is having 4 electron, this is having 2 electron. Okay, so this is carbon AOs, that mean atomic orbitals of carbon here, and these are the atomic orbitals of oxygen here, and of course the energy is going up. You should remember the energy is going up. Okay, in that manner. So you can see this oxygen is having lower energy. This 2s orbital of oxygen is having lower energy than your carbon 2s orbital. Similarly, oxygen 2p orbital is also having the lower energy of the carbon 2p orbital. And why this happens? When you move across the period, then effective nuclear charge actually increases, and these atomic orbitals comes closer and their energy actually decreases. That's why they have the decreased energy. Okay, and now how many electrons total you are having? 2 to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now you have to actually fill all these 10 electrons in this molecular orbital diagram. Okay, so this is the molecular orbitals of these are the molecular orbitals of the carbonyl. Okay, so here atomic orbital of carbon, here atomic orbital of oxygen, here molecular orbitals of the carbonyl, and you have to fill the 10 electrons. Okay, according to your Aufbau principle, your Pauli exclusion principle, your Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity, you will apply all these here. So how I can fill the 10 electrons? See, 2 to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you're having the 10 electron in that case. So this diagram, guys, is very, very important for you. This is the exceptional case, and your IIT JAM examination, you will have the question. Definitely see in the previous examination, आपके पास इसमें से क्वेश्चन रहा है और आगे भी रहेगा. ये important case है, आप याद रखेंगे. See, अब इस केस में देखिए, when you draw the molecular orbital diagram, so this is a sigma 2s bonding. Okay, this is sigma 2s bonding. So this is sigma 2s bonding. It is having 2 electron. So I can write in that manner. It is having the lowest energy. And then you are having, next is what? This one, sigma 2p Z bonding, and it is also having the 2 electron. And then you are having pi 2px equals to pi 2py. They also having the 2 electrons. Okay, and lastly you are having this one, sigma 2s anti-bonding. Okay, this is how we can write the energy order of the molecular orbitals. So there is see, you can understand, I have written the pz orbital is forming the sigma bond, and px py are forming your pi bond, but it is not always like that. You can make any you can use any p orbital, x, y or z, to form the sigma bond or the pi bond. Okay, so see, whatever the axis you will choose as the internuclear axis, it will form the sigma bond, and then rest two will form the pi bond. So in that case, I am assuming that I have taken your z axis as the internuclear axis, so it will form the sigma bond, and x and y would form actually the pi bond. So if you take x orbital as see, x axis as your internuclear axis, so your sigma 2p x would be the x would form the sigma bond, and y and z would form the pi bond. So there is no not such big deal in that case. Okay, the important thing is that, see, the outermost orbital, actually, see, the orbital which is having the higher energy, in that case it is actually having the 2 electron, which is sigma 2s anti-bonding. So this is anti-bonding in nature. It is very, very important, and it is, see, now it is also occupied one, and after that you can see, once you form this one, So see, this is for this one, 2s bonding and 2s anti-bonding. And when you draw the molecular orbital diagram with this one, so these two also will combine. So they will form in that case, right? So PZ would form your sigma and X and Y would form your pi bond. Similarly, they have the anti-molecular orbitals also. Okay. And now you can see here, this is actually your HOMO, highest occupied molecular orbital, because these molecular orbitals are occupied with the electrons, okay, and they are having the highest energy among the occupied ones. So these are the HOMO, okay. And now if you see in that case, this pi 2p and pi antibonding 2px equals to pi antibonding 2py, they are empty, so they are LUMO, okay, they are LUMO. So what is the meaning of the LUMO? Lowest unoccupied molecular orbital. So if you see, these two are the unoccupied one, and out of these, this px py pi, they are unoccupied one and they are lower in energy, so they are LUMO. So this is the concept of the HOMO and LUMO. If you don't know the concept of the HOMO and LUMO, so here you can see I'm giving you the link which will give you the detailed insight of the identification of the HOMO and the LUMO. Please go through this particular video. It's very helpful or useful for you guys. Okay, this is something very important. Okay guys, I think there is no problem in that. Now the important thing is that if you want to calculate the bond order, okay, bond order of this carbonyl, okay, this carbonyl. So bond order, you know, it is what, half of Nb minus Na. That means number of bonding electrons minus number of anti-bonding electrons, and if you take the average of these two, that will give you the bond order. Okay, so how I can write this thing? So now see, 1 by 2 is quite fine. Number of bonding electrons, how many bonding electrons are there? You can see this is bonding, this is bonding, this is bonding, this is bonding. They all are the bonding one because they have the lower energy. So 2 to 4 to 6 to 8. So you can write 8 here. Now you can go for the anti-bonding. So this is your anti-bonding orbital and it is having 2 electrons, so you can subtract this one. Okay, 8 minus 2 by 2, that will give you the 3. So what is the meaning of that? Your say carbon triple bond oxygen is there. Okay, that's why it is, and that's how it is. Okay, that is how it is. And see, if you want to know the bond length of this one, so your bond length would be somewhere around 1.128 angstrom. Okay guys, now from here the important point जो है वो आपके यहीं से आएंगे. Now see, when it is acting as the sigma donor, see, when it is acting as the sigma donor, this carbonyl, when it is acting as the sigma donor, what it can do? It can donate its 2s sigma 2s anti-bonding electron to the metal. Okay, and not only these two, they can also donate these electron also, right, which are present in the pi and the sigma z. These all can be donated. Okay, but this will happen when your metal, when your carbonyl would be in the bridged position. So whenever, see, when your metal, when one metal is present and it is forming 4 carbonyls are there, right, and all 4 carbonyls, see, one carbonyl is connected with the 4 metal. If I want to explain here, so when one carbonyl is connected with the 4 metal, so it will donate this electron pair, this electron pair, this electron pair, and this electron pair. So it can donate all, it can donate one. Okay, now what happens? See, if it donates its electron pair to this metal, so what will happen to the bond order? Okay, so now it will become CO positive when it will donate the electron pair, राइट. आपको पता है कि जब इलेक्ट्रॉन डोनेट कर देगा उधर को, तो यहाँ से इलेक्ट्रॉन निकल के किसके पास चले जाएंगे? मेटल के पास. सी, रिमेंबर दिस पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट गाइस, व्हेन दिस विल डोनेट इट्स इलेक्ट्रॉन पेयर फ्रॉम दिस एंटी बॉन्डिंग, नाउ इट इज इलेक्ट्रॉन डेफिशिएंट, दैट मीन इट वुड हैव द पॉजिटिव चार्ज ओवर देयर. नाउ you want to calculate the, if you want to calculate the bond order for this one, so how we will calculate? Half number of bonding electrons, that would be 8 minus one of the electron actually would donate it to the metal, so it would be -1. Okay, so not the pair, and I am not actually donating this pair of electrons. First, for the sake of the convenience, I am only removing 1 electron from here, not 2 actually. Okay, see, if I have removed 1 electron from here, so I'll have 8 bonding electron which I have which I had earlier, and now 1 anti-bonding orbital because 1 electron is donated to the metal. So what will happen to the bond order? it would be 3.5. Okay, 7 by 2 is actually 3.5. So bond order is increasing. Okay, and what would happen to the bond length? See, you know, bond order and bond length, they are inversely proportional to each other. When this increases, this will decrease. When this increases, this will decrease. So definitely when the bond order increases, the bond length should decrease. So if you check the bond length in that case, so it is decreased actually 1.115 angstrom. Okay, so this is something very, very important. Okay guys, this is very, very important. Now keep in mind one important point. Whenever, see, this is very, very important. Whenever your carbonyl is acting as the sigma donor and it is donating electron to the metal, then your bond order will increase. From 3 to 3.5, you can take this just as a reference. And see, now second case, now say it is acting as the pi donor. So what can happen? Metal can, see, metal, when it is acting as the pi donor, metal can donate electron pair. So where metal can donate electron pair? In this anti-bonding orbitals. Okay, so say for example, now just for your convenience, say metal have donated one electron to this one. Okay, so when metal donated one to this one, say for example, you are taking as this CO negative. When one electron is donated by the metal to here, actually, then you will have the bond order for this one, half of number of bonding minus number of anti-bonding. See, two anti-bonding was already there, one is actually coming from the metal. So what it will give you? It will give you 2.5. So in that case, a bond order decreases. So this you will always keep in mind. When your carbonyl accepts the electron, then the bond order decreases, and when the carbonyl donates electron pair, then your bond order increases. This is something very, very important, and this will be your guide for to solve the various kinds of the problems. This is something very, very important. Okay, now I am going to discuss or I am going to give you a very important detail here. And what is the detail, right? Say if you want to calculate the IR stretching, okay, that means how much energy is required to stretch the bond between the carbon and the oxygen. Okay, so that would be directly proportional to the bond strength. ये मैंने पहले भी आपको बताया, जितना ज्यादा बॉन्ड स्ट्रेंथ होगा उतनी ज्यादा एनर्जी चाहिए होगी. ओके, एंड योर बॉन्ड स्ट्रेंथ इज डायरेक्टली प्रोपोर्शनल टू द बॉन्ड ऑर्डर. ठीक है, सी यू नो bond order means you are having single bond, you are having double bond, and you are having the triple bond. You know the triple bond, it will require higher energy to break when compared to the double bond, and this double bond in turn require the higher energy when compared to the single bond. Okay, so this will require lower energy to stretch, and this will require higher energy to stretch. So bond strength is directly proportional to the bond order, and you have already seen this bond order is inversely proportional to the bond length. So this you have to keep in mind, because they may ask question in any form, right? This is something very, very important which you will always keep in mind while solving the problems. I hope there is no problem in understanding this particular concept. So guys, I took almost 25 minutes of yours to explain all these things, but believe me, without understanding this particular concept, it is impossible for you to understand the carbonyl stretching frequency. That's why I have given some time to this one. Okay guys, now say I'm going to explain some of the important things about this carbonyl stretching frequency. So here I'm writing factors affecting. This is factors affecting carbonyl stretching. Sorry for the handwriting guys, I have very bad handwriting. Okay, sorry. Factors affecting CO stretching frequency. Okay, so you can see here I'm charge on the metal. So this is something very, very important. Charge on the metal, it will decide the whether the carbonyl will have the higher frequency or not. Okay, so before going into the details of this one, I want to explain a very important thing. Actually here you can write the back bonding. Okay, back bonding. Back bonding means metal to ligand pi bond. Okay, this is important. Metal to ligand pi bond. This is very important. So how it happens? Say I'm having this metal here and it is having the d orbital. So I'm for your convenience I am showing only one lobe of your d orbital. It is filled one. It is having the electron density. You can consider in that manner, and it is connected with the carbonyl, which is having the triple bond here. There is no problem in that. Okay, in that manner you can write. Okay, and obviously it will have the positive charge over there because one of the electron is actually donated to the metal to form the sigma bond. So this sigma bond is already there, which is present. Now see, this carbonyl is having the empty pi anti-bonding orbital. How? I have explained to you all these things. Okay, here it is having the pi anti-bonding orbitals. So in this pi anti-bonding orbitals, what can happen? This metal can donate electron density. Okay, so this is the type of the back bonding, right? As this you can write as BB. I am writing the back bonding for this one. Okay guys, so in that case, see earlier this, now what can happen? See, when this happens actually, then you are see, earlier it was single bond, now it would become the double bond. Okay, there is no problem in that because this pi bond, and when this happens, this electron pair will come here and this will become, say, just like that. So if you recall in that case, so here it is doubly bonded compound, bond order is 2. Okay, in that case bond order is 3. So in that case you can see here, now it is actually converted into from triple to the double bond. That means bond order decreases. When bond order decreases, then the bond strength decreases, and when bond strength decreases, that means it will require lower energy to stretch the bond. That means the vibrational frequency would be low. This I have summarized here also. You can see here, when bond order decreases, then bond strength also decreases. When bond strength decreases, then it will require the lower energy to stretch the bond. Okay, so you can keep in mind, whenever the back bonding will occur, back bonding will occur, your carbonyl stretching frequency would be low. Nu CO would be low when the back bonding occurs. This is something very, very important. Okay, and for your reference, you have to keep in mind one important point. Your carbonyl C, this is CO. Okay, and this is free carbonyl stretching frequency. That means your carbonyl is not bonded with any metal. In that case, it will have the value of the 21.43 centimeter inverse. Okay, so when this back bonding will happen, then your nu CO would be low value. That means lower than 2143. This concept you will keep in mind. Whenever the back bonding will happen, that means the bond order will decrease, and when bond order will decrease, the bond strength also decreases, and when bond becomes weaker, it will require lower energy to stretch the bond, and energy is directly proportional to this vibrational frequency. When energy is low, then the frequency would also be low. This you have to keep in mind. Okay guys, now see some of the factors which can affect the vibrational frequency. That is the charge on the metal. So what is the meaning of the charge on the metal? See, if you calculate the oxidation states of the metal in that case, so your titanium here it is in 2 negative. See, I already told you your carbonyls are very special in stabilizing the lower oxidation states of the transition metal. So it is 2 negative, it is 1 negative, it is 0, and it is +1, it is +2. Okay, so these are the charge present on the metal, and for your convenience I am telling you, they all are the 3d6 system. If you count the electrons in all of them, they will find 6 electrons. So I am not going to count the electrons in all of these. See, I have explained all these things in pretty much detail in my coordination chemistry lecture also. So these all are having the 6 electrons. So they are the isoelectronic. All these species are isoelectronic species. So I am writing the isoelectronic. Isoelectronic species are those species which are having the same number of the electrons. Okay guys, there is no problem in that. Now the important observation is that if you know the carbonyl stretching frequency for these 6 carbonyls in that case, so in the first case this value is actually somewhere around, if I'm not wrong, it is 750 centimeter inverse for this titanium complex. Okay, and for this vanadium complex it goes little higher, that is 1860 centimeter inverse. Okay, and for this chromium concept is goes further higher, and it goes to the value of 2000 centimeter inverse. For this manganese complex it is having a little higher, that is 2100 centimeter inverse, and for this iron complex it is having this. Okay, right. So guys, in that case you can see see originally it is having what value, 2143 of angstrom, but all these values are lower than 2143. And when that means, what is the simple explanation is what? That means the back bonding is taking place. Whenever the back bonding is taking place, your carbonyl frequency would be lower than your 2143. So in all these cases they are having the they are forming the say back bonding. And see, higher the magnitude of the back bonding, lower the your carbonyl stretching frequency. So that means it is having the very low value of the carbonyl stretching frequency in that case, that is 1750. That means it will have very highest amount or highest magnitude of the back bonding. So how we can explain this one? See here, titanium is having the 2 negative, that means it is having the extra electron density here. When it will have the extra electron density, definitely this titanium will have the 2 negative here, so it will more actually form more your back bonding. And when back bonding is more, that means the decrease in the bond order would be very, very low. Okay, when this bond order actually becomes quite low, that means the carbonyl stretching frequency would also be low. But when you move to this vanadium complex, it is having the 1 negative. Okay, so 1 negative इसके ऊपर अब आ गया है. That means it is having the electron density, but not that much of electron density this vanadium is having when compared to the titanium. So it will form the back bonding, but not that exclusive that is formed by the your titanium complex. So this will have the back bonding but lower than this one, so it will have the slightly higher carbonyl stretching frequency. Okay, now if you move here, now it is neutral, so it is not having any your electron density, so it will not form that actually high back bonding, but still the back bonding would be there. There is a concept how we can explain. It is not like that when it will have the electron density only then it will form the back bonding. Always the back bonding will happen. In that case, even in that case too, the back bonding will happen actually. How it will happen, I'll explain in a little moment when I will go to the second actually your factor. So it is having 2000. Now this is positive. It is electron deficient, right? It is electron deficient. That means the back bonding would be quite low, and the back bonding would be low, then be high, and it is reflecting in this in its value 2100 centimeter inverse. And this is iron is 2 positive in that case, right? When it is 2 positive, that means it is more electron deficient than this one, so it will have the 2200 centimeter inverse. So this is something very, very important. Okay, later I will solve the problem based on this also. And the second factor which can affect the carbonyl stretching frequency is your number of the CO ligands. Okay, so see, whenever you have the number of before going to before explaining this one, you have to keep in mind, say they may ask you the 2 type of the question. For example, if you are having this titanium here and you are this one. Okay, so if I further write this one, so I can write in that manner, guys. Okay, so there is no problem in that. I am writing CO5 in that manner. So they may ask 2 type of the question from you. See what will happen. See, this is the given value of this IR stretching frequency. Guys, इस बात को आप याद रखेंगे कि ये IR स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी की हेल्प से ही हम इनका जो स्ट्रक्चर है इन कंपाउंड्स का वो बता पाते हैं. बैक बॉन्डिंग का एक्सटेंट वो IR स्पेक्ट्रोस्कोपी की हेल्प से बताते हैं. Okay, so this you will keep in mind. By taking the IR spectra and by considering their vibrational frequency, we can decide the extent of the back bonding. Okay, so they may ask you the two type of the question. What is the bond strength of this one? That means metal to carbon. And they may ask you this question, what is the bond strength of this one? And they may go for the bond order of all of these two. Okay, this you have to keep in mind. So if you want to know the carbonyl stretching frequencies in that case, so you know A actually, right? In that case, carbonyl stretching frequency, right? So in that case, you can see this is the lowest value. Okay, why lowest value? Because it will form the maximum back bonding due to the extra electron over there, and this order goes in that manner: B, C, D and E. So here maximum back bonding, I can write max BB. Max BB means lowest nu CO. In that case, minimum back bonding. Back bonding means highest or the maximum nu CO. Okay, so you are having the maximum value for this one, you are having the maximum value for this one. But if they ask if they ask the stretching frequency of metal and titanium and this carbon, okay, if they ask the stretching frequency of this one, then the order would be reverse. Why? See, when actually this value when this stretching frequency increases, this will decrease, and when this increases, then this will decrease. So this is for the carbonyl stretching frequency, right? This order is for the carbonyl stretching frequency. But if they ask that metal and carbon stretching frequency, then the order would be reversed in that manner. In that case, E would be the lowest one, followed by the D, and then C, then B and E, right? So you will keep in mind these things also. I will explain the problem based on this also. Okay guys, and now see whenever see number of the carbonyl ligands. So there is a quite straightforward way to explain this one, right? See here you are having 4 carbonyls. When you are having the 4 carbonyls, so it is having 2131 centimeter inverse. Okay, and then okay, so I have actually written the wrong values. Okay, so now these are the correct values. They all are in centimeter inverse. You should remember this point. Okay, so whenever your 4 carbonyls are there, the stretching frequency is very high. When your 5 carbonyls are there, then it will be lower than your 4 carbonyl compound, and when the 6 carbonyls are there, the value is further low. And you know, see, whenever the back bonding will happen, when the back bonding will occur, the carbonyl stretching frequency would be low. I have written here, whenever the back bonding is there, then your carbonyl stretching frequency would be low. So this carbonyl stretching frequency would be is low in that case. That means it is having the highest or higher back bonding. Okay, and in that case your back bonding is lowest. Okay, how I can explain this one? See, earlier I told you, see, whenever your electron density is not there, then 2 actually your back bonding would occur. This will explain in that particular manner. Say this is your nickel and you are having the 4 carbonyls. So I'm giving you this kind of geometry. Okay, so what will happen? See, it is actually it has formed the sigma bond. Okay, it has formed the sigma bond. Okay, that means this carbonyl actually form the donated to electron density here. So when these 4 carbonyls donated electron, they form the sigma bonds. So due to the formation of these 4 sigma bonds, okay, ligand to metal sigma bond, so in that case the electron density is there in that case. And when it is having this electron density by this sigma bond, and now it is eligible to form the back bonding, now it will form the back bonding to this one. This is how actually you can explain the presence of the back bonding even when it is having the 0 or the negative charge over there, because the electron density would be provided by the sigma bond which are formed by the carbonyls. Okay, this you have to keep in mind. Okay guys, so now say you are having the, see, when you are having the 4 carbonyls, so the electron density would be low. Now say you are having the 5 carbonyls. Say I can write I here, and if I put randomly here 5 CO here in that case. Okay, So again they will form the sigma bond. 5 sigma bonds are there. That means again the electron density would be there, and this electron density would be higher. Why? Because 5 carbonyls are there. When electron density is higher, so they will form the more back bonding. When back bonding is more, then your stretching frequency would be low, and it is reflecting here. It is going from 2057 centimeter inverse to 2034. And when the 6 carbonyls are there, then further increase in the electron density over this metal. So it will form the more your back bonding, then the value of carbonyl stretching frequency would be quite low, right? So carbonyl stretching frequency goes in that manner, and the reverse is true for your metal. It means nickel carbon, iron carbon, and your chromium carbon bond. Reverse is true for this one, as I explained for titanium carbon bond. Okay, this is important. So you will keep in mind this particular point. Whenever you will have the higher number of the carbonyls, then you will have the higher back bonding, and higher bonding results in the lower value of the carbonyl stretching frequency. Okay, guys. Now the last point, and after that I'll solve the previous year CSIR net examination problems. So whatever the things we have explained so far, in that case, so in that case I have only taken the carbonyls ligands in your complex, but this may happen your apart from your carbonyl ligands, you may have your other ligands also. So I'm taking this example here. Okay, you can see here, this is tetracarbonyl nickel, but in the second case I have replaced one of the carbonyl with the PF3. Okay, and in the third case I have replaced that PF3 with some other ligand, that is PPOH whole thrice. Okay, and then after that I have replaced this one actually carbonyl with PME3. So what kind of other ligands it can have? See, it can have sigma donor ligands, and it can have pi acceptor ligands, and they may also have the pi donor ligands. And for this you need to know the concept which I have explained in my coordination chemistry, role of the pi acceptor and the pi donor and the sigma donor ligands. With that series you have to have in your पेन पॉइंट्स. ये गलती मैंने भी करी है. इससे पहले मैंने कलर वाला एक क्वेश्चन सॉल्व किया है, तो उस कलर वाले क्वेश्चंस में मैंने क्योंकि वो सीरीज मैंने ढंग से याद नहीं रखी, तो वहाँ पे एक मैंने मिस्टेक करी है, तो वो मैंने अब करेक्ट करी है. उसको मैंने कमेंट को पिन भी किया हुआ है और साथ ही साथ डिस्क्रिप्शन में भी दिया है, वहाँ देख लीजिएगा. वो प्रॉब्लम गलत है, लेकिन मैंने उसको फिर बाद में बताया कि ये ऐसे हो सकती है. ओके, so now we have to think in that manner what they are actually. They are, see, PF3 PPOH whole thrice, these are pi donor, these are sigma donors, or they are the pi acceptor, what they are actually, right? So for this actually, so I'm not going into the detail of the pi acceptor and the pi donor, but I'm giving you the link here. So not giving you the link here, I'm giving you the link in the description. Okay, वहां से आप देख सकते हैं. So see, for example, in that case the carbonyl stretching frequency for this one is 2131 centimeter inverse, which I have written here actually. Okay, and for this one it was 211 centimeter inverse, and for this one it is goes further down, and for this one actually it is the lowest, this one. So that means in that case the back bonding is maximum, right? When back bonding is maximum, only then you will have the lowest value of your carbonyl stretching frequency. So what kind of the ligands they are, you can think in that manner, what kind of the ligands they are, right? So how you can assign the facts about all these things. Okay, see, this is PF3, and this PF3, how it can act as PF3, right? It's a sigma donor. So all these ligands, right, the phosphorus, see, this phosphorus is having the lone pair over there like nitrogen, so it can donate electron to the metal. When it donates the electron to the metal, it will increase the, say for example, if this is phosphorus and here it is having your nickel. Okay, and when it will donate the electron density to this one, so it will have the extent increased electron density, and when it is having the increased electron density, it will form the back bonding with the carbonyls. Okay, back bonding not with the phosphorus but with the carbonyls. Okay, and when back bonding increases, then the vibrational frequency decreases. So in that case, you can see if you take this PF3, okay, it's a sigma donor, but it's a poor sigma donor. Poor sigma donor. Why a poor sigma donor? See, you can see these three fluorines are here. So they are very, very electronegative in nature. So what they can do, so they will not allow this phosphorus to donate this electron pair to the metal more easily. That's why it's a very poor sigma donor. When it is the very poor sigma donor, that means in that case, if I put 3 fluorine here, so it will donate the electron here, but not that strongly. When it will not donate the electron pair that strongly, that means the electron density would be low and it will form the low back bonding. And when the back bonding is low, then your carbonyl stretching frequency would be high, and it is reflecting here 211. Okay, now if you go for the another ligand, that is POPH, okay, and they are present three times, right? Phosphine based ligand, phenyl based ligand, right, O phenyl. In that case, see, lone pair is here and lone pair is also there. Now again it can donate the electron density to the nickel, and 3 carbonyls are already there, as I have explained. But this oxygen is not that electronegative when compared to the fluorine. So it is having the very high minus I effect, but it will not have, this oxygen will not have that high minus I effect. So that it can donate electron pair more easily. This phosphorus can donate electron pair to the nickel more easily when compared to the PF3. That means when it is donating more easily, that means the electron density is high. When electron density is high, further it will form the back bonding. That means the back bonding would be high. And when the back bonding would be high, then the carbonyl stretching frequency would be low, and it is reflecting here. It is going from 211 centimeter inverse to 2085. Now if you go to the last one, last ligand is what? It is having your PME. Okay. So this Me is quite different from oxygen and oxygen. It is having the plus I effect. So what is the meaning of the plus I effect? So they will actually push the electron density here. Now this is very much capable of donating electron to the nickel, this ligand. Why? Because it is having the very high electron density by this plus I effect. Why they are having, while these two are having the lower electron density due to the minus I effect. Okay, so what will happen? It is having the more electron density. When it is having the more electron density, it will form the more extensive carbonyl back bonding with this one. When back bonding was very high, right, then carbonyl stretching frequency would be low, and it is reflecting in this value 2064. This is how you can explain. So what is the increasing order of carbonyl stretching frequency? Right, increasing order of CO stretching frequency in all these compounds. तो सबसे कम इसमें है, ओके, उससे ज्यादा आपका C में है, उससे ज्यादा B में है, उससे ज्यादा आपका A में है. But if they ask the nickel carbon stretching frequency, increasing order, nickel carbon stretching frequency, then the order would be low in that case. Okay, B, C, D. So these are the sum of the factors actually, and this particular question, guys, which I have explained here actually, so somewhat related to the question, they actually asked this particular question in your CSIR NET examination 2018. So what was the question? If I quickly recall, guys, question was just like that. Say you were having the first ligand R3, and then you are having the PAR3, and then you are having the POR whole thrice, and then you are having the POAR whole thrice, and finally they are having the PF3. Okay, so this question actually they have asked in the December 2018 NET examination, carbonyl stretching frequency. Okay, so you know this is the alkyl group, just like that. So this will have the highest value of the carbonyl stretching frequency, sorry, lowest value of the carbonyl stretching frequency. Why? Because it will form the maximum back bonding. Okay, so this you can explain in that manner. Okay, so this question they have asked in the 2018 examination. They have given you the ligands and the complexes, and they have asked this question. This is something very important. Okay, this concept is based on this one. You can go through the question paper of your that examination. Okay, guys. So these are the some of the concepts. Now, say I'm going to explain some of the details here. Okay, this was the question asked in the June 2011 NET examinations. So what was the question? In the trans platinum this complex, the CO stretching frequency of ligand L this decreases in the following order. What they are asking? Okay, they are asking in that manner. They are having the platinum. Okay, this is a trans compound. So what is the meaning of the trans compound? The two chlorines would be in the two opposite ends. Okay, and then you are having one carbonyl and the ligand is what? In the first case you are having ammonia, and in the second case this is Cl, this is Cl, this is CO, you are having the pyridine, and in the third case you are having your CO and 2Cl are trans. Okay, and you are having NMe3. दिस वॉज द क्वेश्चन एंड व्हाट दे आर आस्किंग, क्या पूछ रहे हैं इस क्वेश्चन में, इसको देखिए. इस कॉम्प्लेक्स में ये कहता है कि कार्बोनिल स्ट्रेचिंग फ्रीक्वेंसी का डिक्रीजिंग ऑर्डर क्या होगा, डिक्रीजिंग ऑर्डर. ओके, सो यू नो दिस इज Me3. दिस आई हैव एक्सप्लेन्ड यू गाइज हियर. यू कैन सी हियर PR3 type. See, this is PR3. It is forming the maximum back bonding. Maximum bonding means the lowest value of your carbonyl stretching frequency. So this NMe3, guys, if you can see here, nitrogen, it can donate electron density to this one. Okay, I'm explaining in that manner, and it is having the 3-methyl. So they are having the plus I effect. They will push the electron density. That means this electron density would be easily donated to the platinum. That means it will form more readily the back bonding to this one. So back bonding would be very high in that case. When back bonding is high, that means new CO would be low. So in this case it would be the lowest one. So you can check this option as the lowest one. So you are having this option in the lowest one. This may be your answer, and this is the lowest value. This may be your answer. This cannot be your answer because it is showing the maximum. This cannot be your answer because this is showing the intermediate one. So you are having the two options. Out of these you have to select one. This one correct, whether this one is correct. Now next is, you can see it's quite obvious actually. What you can see here. See, this actually this will form the maximum back bonding. Okay, and this pyridine will form the lowest back bonding, and ammonia, which is having this lone pair electron pair, it will form the intermediate back bonding. Okay guys, the pyridine, you know, it is just like that. It's a heterocyclic compound. Okay, so when you compare these two, they all are the sigma donors. Remember this thing, they all are the sigma donors, but this is the far better sigma donor because it is not having the benzene ring here. See, you can argue that this lone pair is not involved in the conjugation, so it may donate, but not. The effect of aromaticity would also be there. So this lone pair cannot be as readily as donated as by this ammonia. So maximum donation would occur by, lowest donation would occur by this pyridine. That means lowest donation. That means the back bonding would also be low. When back bonding is low, then new CO would be high. So this pyridine. So option A is looking the correct one. Okay, this is how you can explain. Now my next question is June 2012 unit. This compound for trans, this compound, this is the reactant and this is the product. Okay, this is forming this one. Correct observation. Okay, that means carbonyl stretching frequency in the product would be more than the reactant. In that case, product carbonyl stretching frequency would be low than the reactant. In that case, both would be equal. And the last option, your product carbonyl stretching frequency would be equal to the free carbonyl stretching frequency. There is no question of the free carbonyl stretching frequency. This is not possible actually. Okay. because this is not free. In that case it is not free, so it is not possible. So what concept we can apply? We can go for the oxidation states. So if you go for the oxidation states, here you can see carbonyl is neutral, 0, it is -1. Okay, so in that case your iridium is in +1 oxidation state. You can calculate the oxidation state easily. I have explained all these things in my coordination chemistry lecture. You can go there. In that case 3 chlorines are there. That mean, okay, when 3 chlorines are here, that mean it is in +3 oxidation state. Okay, that mean it is electron deficient. It is electron deficient when compared to the iridium one. That means it is having more electron density than 3 positive, because 3 positive is more deficient than your 1 positive. When this is having more electron density than this one, that means it will form this iridium, right? Iridium +1 will form more back bonding. When it will form the more back bonding, that means nu CO would be low. So in the reactant, the nu CO would be low. You can check that option. So you can see here, no, wait. So it is forming. See, it is the reactant, is the product, and it is having the electron density. So it will form the more back bonding. So when back bonding is more, that means the carbonyl stretching frequency. What they ask in the question, okay, carbonyl stretching frequency would be high in that case. Very sorry. In that case, see, it is forming. Let me recollect what I want to explain here. It is in +1 oxidation state. It is electron deficient. Okay, yes. To explain this one, I can go here. Okay, in that case you can see here, it is having higher positive charge. That means higher positive charge, higher carbonyl stretching frequency. So it is having the higher positive charge, it will have the higher carbonyl stretching frequency. So you can check here, this would be the answer. Okay, you can go in that manner. Now you can explain this one. In that case the back bonding would be low, because electron density is not there. When back bonding would be low, then your carbonyl stretching frequency would be high in the product. Okay, now get it. Okay, now got it. Okay, this is quite clear now. So now my next question is December 2018 examination. What they are asking, that is the question. Okay, now they are asking the cyanide. Not, this is not the carbonyl compound. Say, okay, this is carbonyl in the second case, but not in the first case. So you have the compound A and the compound B. These are the cyanide compounds, and then you have the compound C and the compound D. They are having the carbonyl compounds. Okay, and you have to find the correct order. So again you can check this. Iron is 3 positive and iron is 2 positive. Okay, so I'm going to solve from here actually. So it is electron deficient. It will form low back bonding. When back bonding is low, then a nu CN would be high. So in that case the nu CN would be high. Check whether A is greater than nu CN. So in that, see, this A is greater than B. That means this could be your answer. A is greater than B. This could also be your answer, but this cannot be your answer. Okay. Similarly, this cannot be your answer. So you have to select in between these two. So based on the oxidation state, on the electron richness and the electron deficiency on this one, you know that it was the electron deficient. So it will form the low back bonding. Low back bonding means higher carbonyl stretching, cyanide stretching frequency. Now coming here. In that case, okay, this is the sigma donor. Okay, this is sigma donor. So when it is sigma donor, it will donate more electron density here. When electron density would be high, it will form more extensive back bonding in that case. So in that case, back bonding would be high. High back bonding. And high back bonding reflects in the lower nu CO. Now check, C would be lower than D. Okay, A is greater than B. This was the earlier assumption, and C is lower than D. This was the assumption. So according to me, this question is this option second is actually the correct answer. Okay, so this was the question asked in the 2018 December NET examination. Okay, So okay, I left it with the two questions. Okay, this is what 2018 examination. Identify the correct statement about statements actually for BH3. It may be the one statement correct, or it may be the more than one statement correct. Let me check what is happening here. First option, sp2 orbital of boron accepts the lone pair from the carbonyl. What is the meaning of that? This is BH3. Okay, fine. See, BH3 when it is having when it is the alone entity, only then it is sp2 hybridized. Remember? But what the question is saying, identify the correct statement for BH3CO. So when it is BH3CO, that means it is sp3 hybridized. Because when it is alone, only then it is sp2 hybridized. When is except the electron pair, that means the hybridization changes. 1 2 3 4, that means sp3. So this cannot be your answer, because this species is sp3 hybridized. In this species, boron is sp3 hybridized and not sp2. Okay, so this cannot be your answer. Okay, now next one, its new CO value is greater than free CO. Okay, so let me check this one. See, what is this BEH3? This is Lewis acid. BH3 is Lewis acid. It is electron deficient. Okay, when it is electron deficient, it will form no back bonding. When back bonding is not there in case of the BH3 ligand, then your new CO would be high. So for this, new CO would be high. So its new CO value is higher than the free CO. Okay, this could be your answer. Now coming to next one, formal oxidation state of carbon is +4. No, in that case it is not +4 actually. Formal oxidation state is not +4 in this one. Okay, it is not +4 in that case. So third cannot be true. That means only A, B not. So only B is true in that case. Okay, so this is actually quite interesting question actually, right? Because one may easily get confused, because boron is sp2 hybridized, so you may think in that manner. Okay, this is the correct one, but they have asked the question for this molecule actually, right? In that case, it is sp3 hybridized. So this actually, I suppose this B is correct. Okay, this is how you can get the answer for this one. So only this B is correct. Now I'm going to the next. See, this is my last problem, guys. And my last problem, the correct increasing order of, see, carbon-carbon bond length. In that case, it is asking the carbon-carbon bond length of ethylene. So quickly, what I can do, I can draw the structure for this one. Say this is my platinum. Okay, and 3 chlorines are here, chlorine, chlorine and chlorine, and this is my ethylene. Okay, and then I am having my platinum in the center, and then I am having my triphenyl phosphine, PPH3, PPH3, and this one. Okay, and my last compound is this one, that is my platinum. And in this platinum, what I am having PPH3, okay, twice. So in that case, say PPH3, double bond. So guys, I have written only 2 times of these things, right? But they would be actually thrice, so there may be a little incorrectness, but don't worry about this. You have to keep in mind this particular point. So in that ethylene, in these ethylene, right, you can see here they ask this particular carbon-carbon bond length. They are asking for this one. So cyanides are there in the last one. You can see here 4 cyanides are there. So I think this question is quite straightforward. Cyanides, what they will show the minus I effect. So when they will show the minus I effect, they will stretch the electron density, or they will attract the electron density towards themselves, all 4. So consequently, they will expand this particular bond. So in this compound C, this carbon-carbon bond length would be highest. Now go for the highest value of the C. So in that case, see, this is the highest value of the C, this is the lowest value of the C, this cannot be your answer. This is the highest value of C, this can be your answer. This is the intermediate, this can be your answer. And this is the now C, this one. So this cannot be your answer because see, C is the highest one, right? So highest is in that case. So B could be the correct one. So this question actually was quite simple. So if you know the minus I effect, see I already told you, अगर आपको ऑर्गेनिक केमिस्ट्री बहुत डिटेल में नहीं आता, जीओसी आप नहीं जानते, तो आप इस तरीके के क्वेश्चन सॉल्व नहीं कर पाएंगे. ये मैं पहले भी आपको बताया अच्छी तरीके से, ठीक है. तो ये माइनस आई इफेक्ट की वजह से इसको स्ट्रेच करके बड़ा कर दे, जबकि यहाँ पे कोई माइनस आई इफेक्ट नहीं है, ठीक है. इस तरीके से माइनस आई इफेक्ट से ये हो जाएगा. बाकी और कंसेप्ट यहाँ लगाने की जरूरत मेरे हिसाब से यहाँ पर नहीं है. सो दिस इज हाउ यू कैन सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम बेस्ड ऑन दिस. So this option is the correct option actually. If you want to go in the little detail, so the chlorines are there, they will see electron density is there. So see, I don't think there is a need to go in that particular concept actually. You can solve the problem based on the minus I effect of this one, but only see, you can compare these two actually. So because all are having the 4 hydrogens, but this triphenyl phosphine is there and your ligands are, chlorines are there actually, right? So you can consider the plus M or minus I effect of all these things, but according to me we can solve this problem only by taking the minus I effect of this one. So these are the some of the problems of your previous year examinations. In the next class, whenever I will make a video when I'll feel little comfortable, so I'll make the point group analysis and your number of IR bands, all these on and all these things, because the questions they generally ask from that topic also. So I hope you like the lecture guys. Okay, चलिए मिलते हैं फिर अगली क्लास में. Okay, thank you very much.